welcome to the Heme Consults podcast. I'm your host, JSC Unwomenal. I'm a hematologist, physician, coach extraordinaire, and business owner. It's a pleasure to be talking with you today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I'm here because you're here. And if you weren't here, I wouldn't be here. So thank you for bringing me into your space, whether it's your car or your living room or your walk. Maybe you're taking my voice along with you as you're walking. I just want to say thank you because if you didn't ask me to be here, if you didn't invite me by, listening to the podcast, I wouldn't be here. So thank you. Uh, I want to share with you that today's episode comes from Proverbs 31:10, and it is titled, You Are So Precious. You are so precious. But do you know that? Do you know how precious you are? Okay. But before I start talking about the episode, I just want to invite you, a woman of color in hematology, to just pause right now. Whatever you're doing, just stop for a moment and reflect. Reflect on all the good you've done in this world. Reflect on all the goodness that's been poured out because you're here. Reflect maybe on your family of origin and the joy you brought to your family because you came into the world. The infectious laughter you had as a child, the big dreams that maybe got people mad at you because you always kept talking about it. Reflect on all the goodness you brought into the world, the kind word that changed somebody's day, the patient you saw and took care of, and you transformed their experience. I just want you to reflect on all the good you've done, all the good that has come out of you into the world. And I want you to see that the world is a better place because you're here. I need you to know and understand that because your mind plays tricks on you. And sometimes your mind tells you that it's not worth it and that there's no point, but there is a point. You've done so much good in the world and there's so much more good you must do. And sometimes the good that's ahead of you is harder than the good that you've already done, the good that's behind you. And so I'm inviting you to think about the good you've done in the world and recognize that you have yet more good to do. So much more good. And so I'm inviting you today to just recognize that whatever good you've done, so much more, there's so much more yet to be done. And I invite you not to give up, but to continue to push forward because the world needs the goodness that you are bringing. I need the goodness that you're bringing. So I hope that you're going to continue to bring it. All right. So in today's episode, I'm talking about recognizing that you are precious. And it's not just that you're precious, but recognizing it, because being precious and not recognizing that you're precious is an important thing because one cancels out the other. If you're precious and you don't recognize your preciousness, then you might as well not be precious. I mean, you still are, but if you don't recognize it, then you cannot walk in the beauty and the power of your preciousness. Okay. When I first started my academic career, and I know I keep going back to the beginning, it's because so much can be traced back to the beginning. I remember wanting to lead research. And to be honest, I always thought I could because, hey, I can do anything, right? I can do anything. And so, wow, it was kind of like it was a little bit of a shock when I was told, oh, no, you can't. Actually, these are the people who can, and you're not one of them. They didn't say that exactly. They try not to tell you that they're comparing you to other people, even though they are. But I think it was that, well, you don't have enough publications and you haven't really applied for it. You don't have many grants. You haven't applied for this. You haven't applied for it. And there was a lot of things I hadn't done. And here I was. I came into this whole experience thinking, oh, I can do this. Right. That's the reason I came. But then when I was told you can't, and this is why, I came away for many of those conversations feeling like there was a deficit, like, oh, I guess I can't. I guess I'm not qualified. And then I began to internalize that. And I began to allow that to be my life, to be my existence, because, it was like, well, I don't have enough. I'm not good enough. That's what I internalized. And so, how did I start to behave? I started to behave like someone who wasn't good enough. I would go and I would be begging people to help me or to work with me. I would say, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I really need your help. I really need your advice. And I wasn't making it up. That's what I believed because enough people had told me, right? Enough people had told me that I couldn't. And as I started to believe them, I started to act like somebody who couldn't. I started to fulfill the very prophecy that I had accepted. And here's the thing, I just want to pause and say if somebody says something negative about you and you don't accept it, it doesn't become true for you. But the moment you accept it, or the moment you pause and say, that could be true about me, then you start to fulfill it. You start to walk the walk, talk the talk, and it starts to become true of you. And so in life, there's so many times where people will tell you something about you that's actually not true because it's not who you are, but it begins to become true the moment you agree with it. And so there I was. I agreed that I wasn't qualified. I agreed that I had no idea what I was doing. And you know what? I started behaving that way because I believed it. And I had such a deficit mindset, a deficit model. I went around looking for a mentor who would help me because I was not enough. And I will say in life, you always need mentors. You always need someone who's gone ahead of you, but not because they're better than you, not because they know things that you don't know, but because they're ahead of you in time. They came earlier, so they have information that you don't have. But it's not that you're not good enough and they're making you good or they're making you better or they're making you who you are. They're limited. And anyway, but I had that deficit model, couldn't find a mentor who would take me on. And I always went around feeling like, wow, nobody wants to help me. I can't move forward. And I just was always looking for the person who would embrace me wholeheartedly, right? And help me be the person who had the stuff because I clearly didn't have it. So I did that. I finally found a mentor who, to be honest, didn't quite have the same kind of energy that I wanted, but the person was willing to meet with me regularly. And so I met with them regularly. And the whole time I kept thinking, help me become, help me be, help me accomplish all these things that I can't accomplish on my own because I just can't. And it took a long time. And I finally got to the place where it was like, oh, you're not going to help me. And in fact, oh, the situation arises and there's an opportunity for harm, you're not going to get in the way. It's like here I am lying on the tracks. The train is coming and you're not telling me that I could die if the train runs over me. uh so I finally got to the place where I was like, you know what? I can do this by myself. I can do bad all by myself. How about I just go to my corner and figure it out? And that was the beginning of my victory. It was the beginning of my success because my success all along did not depend on other people, but because I felt like I wasn't enough, because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I didn't have the qualifications. I didn't have the publications. I didn't have the grant funding. Therefore, I wasn't enough, and somebody else was going to make me enough. Wow. I'm so glad that I had those experiences, even though I wish I was more mature then. It is what it is. Here I am. And so, what do I want to share from that? I want to share, first of all, that you're precious. That's it. I'm precious, and you are too. I'm speaking to you, so I'm saying you're precious. I am precious. I was always precious, right? A diamond doesn't become a diamond after it's been polished. A diamond was always a diamond. It's the recognition that a diamond is a diamond that causes people to make the investment to polish it. It's the recognition that a precious gem is a precious gem that allows people to Take time to remove the dirt on the precious gem so it can shine. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. You are a precious gem. You may be covered by a load of dirt. You are still a precious gem. You may be covered by a load of dirt, but you are still a precious gem. Nobody may have taken the time to polish you, but you are still a precious gem. You may not yet be shining like you're going to shine, but you're still a precious gem. But until you recognize that you are a precious gem, you will stay covered in dirt, thinking you are nothing for so long. Until you recognize that you're a precious gem, you're going to accept it when people say, well, we just take stones like you and throw them in the trash. You're going to accept that because you're like, well, I guess I'm nothing. I go in the trash. Until you accept that you're a precious gem, you're not going to make the investment necessary to shine. And this is where making the investment in yourself, whether or not your institution will support you to get the help you need, whether it's in coaching support, whether it's in grant writing support, is so critical. Because, hey, the precious gem is still a precious gem. But as long as that precious gem still has dirt on it, it'll be hard to convince others that they're a precious gem. They don't need to, but it'll be hard to convince them. And sometimes we're looking at other people to validate us, and all they can see is the dirt. They're like, oh, I can't validate you because all I see is dirt. And they're not incorrect. There's dirt on you, but you're still a precious gem. It's a rare person around you that can look at you and say, oh, I see the dirt, but I'm not naive. I see the gem. I see the gem beyond the dirt. And the challenge that you will have, now I'm going on to number 2, is to, in your journey to shine like the precious gem that you are, you're going to need people who can see you before the dirt is removed. I'm feeling really passionate about this. I really am. Because that's the place in which I found myself. And many of us find ourselves where it's like, you're a precious gem, but people can't see it. And so all they're addressing is the dirt that covers the gem, is the unpolished, unfinished gem. They cannot see beyond the dirt. If you are going to have help, because here's the thing about being a precious gem, you're just hanging out in the dirt all by your lonesome. Someone's got to help you move to the next level. And I know we're not talking about inanimate, we're talking about ourselves, right? You're a precious gem, but you can get up and walk. But in order for you to be polished, you're going to need other people to recognize and invest in you. And this doesn't mean you make people do it. You can't make anybody invest in you who doesn't want to invest. But there are people who can spot precious gems from a mile. And there are people who understand the value of polishing a precious gem. So, one of the things that's going to be so important is to only be in environments where people can tell who you are. But the starting point is recognizing, again, back to number 1, that you are a precious gem. Because until you recognize that you're a precious gem, you're going to be distracted by the dirt in your life. You're going to be distracted by the fact that you're not yet polished. And when people say, "Oh, you're just fit for the rubbish pile," you're going to agree because you don't recognize that you're a precious gem. But when you recognize it, when people say, "Oh, we throw people like you in the trash," you say, "Oh, no, we don't. You clearly have no understanding. How about I move away from you because you are dangerous to me?" And that's because you have a clear understanding of who you are as a precious gem. Nobody can give you that understanding. It's understanding you go get for yourself. Though sometimes we get lucky. We get lucky, and there are people who can recognize a precious gem from a mile. And they're like, I know you're acting like you're dirt. I can see beyond the dirt. There's treasure in there. And so I want to invite you, please don't stay in the dirt. Find, seek out, hang out with people who can see the treasure beyond the dirt. And this is where your activity, your buy-in is so important. Don't stay. Don't stay with the people who say you're dirt. Don't stay with the people who say you can't. Don't stay with them. Because if you just walk further, if you just move a little bit out to the left, there's a place, there's a jeweler, and that jeweler specializes in polishing and recognizing the value of stones covered in dirt and polishing them to perfection. Mhm. And that person, because their work is super specialized, you can't find them in the marketplace. You can't find them anywhere because they're in a corner polishing precious gems. That's what they're doing. I will tell you, I am that coach. And I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I am the coach who's in the corner privately polishing precious gems. And I invite you, if you do not have a coach that you're working with, or maybe you have mentors who have not recognized the value that you bring, and you're looking for someone who can look beyond everything and say, wow, this diamond is it's just the value is gonna be so crazy by the time this this gem is polished. And so you want to step out and you want to find the people who can recognize precious, precious stones, even, even before the polishing takes place. Because the moment you're polished, oh, everybody can recognize a polished diamond. I mean, it doesn't take a degree to recognize a polished diamond. What it does take is the person who would recognize you before you're polished. And I would invite you not to spend too much time or any time at all in the space where people do not recognize your beauty, your preciousness. All right. The third thing I want to share is that you can be as precious a gem all you want, but until you are polished to perfection, until you are polished to luster, until you are polished to shine, you will always look ordinary. And one of the challenges that I invite you to take on is to polish to perfection. This is not perfectionism. I'm not inviting you to a space of perfectionism. Perfectionism is not how you get your polish to how you get your gem to shine. What I'm saying is that it takes work to get a gem to shine. When you see a diamond that sparkles, somebody or a group of somebodies or many people came together in the story of that diamond. Many people came together. First of all, the people who dug up the diamond, next, the people who processed the diamond, then the people who polished the diamond, then the people who set the diamond in a beautiful setting and put it on display. Oh, there's a whole team needed for this diamond to be as to show forth its beauty. And I want to invite you to not stop at wherever you are right now, but to ask, how can this diamond that I am, how can this precious gem that I am be polished to perfection? Oh my goodness. Yes. And so, what am I inviting you to do? I'm inviting you to reflect on your preciousness, to reflect on the diamond that's inside of you. And maybe it's not a diamond, it's another precious stone. The name of the stone is not as important as the fact that you are a precious, precious gem. Do you recognize that? And if you don't, I want you to stop doing whatever you're doing and figure out that you are. And maybe you need to go to a jeweler like me, a coach like me, or a mentor who has the same kind of perspective of like, I can look beyond dirt. I can see what's been beneath that dirt. And sometimes that's what you need to help you to discover that you're a precious gem. But do not pass go. Do not collect 200. Do not move forward until you recognize the preciousness of you. Please, 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 please do not. And it's not enough to be like, oh, yeah, I'm precious, whatever. Mm-mm. Because a person who recognizes that they're precious doesn't do some of the things you do. A person who recognizes that they're precious doesn't hurt themselves, sometimes in the way that you harm yourself. And so if you're still doing things that are not enhancing, that are not advancing you, that are not allowing you to shine like the amazing person that you are, then you know that you do not yet know that you are precious and you need help discovering it. You should sign up for time with me so I can help you discover it. You're precious. You should go do the homework to figure out that you are. And then the second thing I'm inviting you to do is to figure out, what does it take? What does it take to shine? What does it take for you to be everything you must be as this precious gem that you are? What will it take? What will it take? I want you to find out, because there is a path. Precious stones do not shine. They do not glitter, or they do not sparkle. That's the right word. They do not sparkle until work has been done. And so the second thing I'm inviting you to do is to say, what work needs to be done for you? What work needs to be done for you to shine like the diamond, like the gem that you are? And then it's coming in number 3. You gotta do this work. You gotta do it. And sometimes what you do is you just submit yourself to the hand of the jeweler. And you say, jeweler, do all the work. But we're not talking about inanimate objects here. We're talking about you. And until you decide to move forward, nothing changes. Will you shine like the precious stone that you are? Will you shine like you're supposed to shine? And if you will, are you ready to commit and do the work that is necessary to move forward in the way that you need to move forward? Oh goodness, woman of color in hematology. I just want to encourage you again. You are a precious gem, but it's not enough to know it. It's not enough just to know it. It's important to begin to create the systems that allow you to shine like the gem that you are. Yes, as you go on in this week, I invite you to consider in what ways you're a gem and in what ways your gemness, your preciousness, your specialness can be enhanced. And then I want you to go and and act. Take one step, just one step towards making your preciousness just a little bit more polished. Imagine what gift it would be to the world for you to stop presenting your self, your earth, your early self that's not yet polished, and to get to a place where you can present your polished, beautiful self. Wow, what kind of gift would that be to the world? And what kind of world would we live in, having experienced you in your glory, in your beauty, in your amazingness, because it's all been polished to perfection. I look forward to that time. I bet you do too. All right, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you again for listening. I look forward to talking with you again the next time. Have a great week. Bye.